Here in Huntington Beach, California. The dawn has just risen. You can see the Huntington Beach Pier there behind me in the distance. I'm on a little hummock of sand that's been washed away by the coming waves. And we're going to read a chapter from, or at least a part of it, from my book, Going Alone. I wonder if Siri will listen to me. I meant to start the timer. I mean to do this only for an hour because I keep on running out of time, but we'll do it until it feels like an hour has gone by, or at least until we finish the chapter, which I doubt we'll get that far. But let's go ahead and begin. That's the best way to do that. Oh, hey, there's a couple of surfers headed out. Check it out. I don't know if you can see them right over there. A couple of guys just paddling out into the waves with the Huntington Beach Pier behind them. The waves are a lot mellower today. Oh, there's a couple of pelicans coming in. Watch them swoop along. Here they come. I love the way they just glide over the waves and then they go up and then down and find another wave to glide over. Well, I guess maybe they're going to head to Catalina. And the waves have been crashing pretty hard on the shore. I could hear them earlier crashing really loudly. Some big sets come and they just slam right on the beach. It's pretty neat. The guys have hit the lineup out there. Ooh, one guy's going for it. Okay, I think that's good enough. Okay, we'll go ahead and start. Oh, there's a couple guys getting ready to head out right there. Be nice if you can see, set it up so that you can see the waves back there. Hello, Alex. There we go. Yeah, I think that'll work. I see a comment. Alex says, where are you? Where do you live in Japan? Will you be far from the sea? Not far. Maybe not far at all. Maybe close enough to walk to the water. Depends. We're going to look at one house that's right in a little village, a little fishing village. Very close. Whoa, the water's coming to, speaking of coming close, it's right below me right now. We should be pretty close to the sea in Japan, wherever we are. Okay, here we go. Let's get started. I wonder if that's Dale coming down the beach. I expect to see Dale this morning. I got sand all over it. Oh, that's okay. And my tea. Okay, so today I'm going to read from the chapter titled, this is my book, Going Alone. It's a story of my adventures into kind of the culmination of my adventures into the deep wilderness, and the recognition of a deep emptiness that pervades the universe, basically, that is most readily appreciated, like the ability to see the distant stars on a dark, clear night, far away from everything. You can see the emptiness of the universe far away in a wilderness deep. And so Going Alone is the story of the journey. And one of the things that resulted of that was the need to come up with a solution to what to do with a universe of empty, right? If there's no overriding, arching, guiding principles, I'll have to develop them on my own. And that's exactly what I did in creating the Good Life Creed, which is outlined in this book. And that's the chapter that I'm going to read today, which is mostly just a categorical itemization of each of the objectives and principles in turn, to be so that I can utilize them to my best advantage. All right, let's get started. Keep your eyes out for the big waves coming in behind me. I don't want to get washed away. And like I said, I might not read to the end of the chapter. I might just read for an hour or so. We'll see how it goes. All right, the Good Life chapter opens with a lovely illustration by my daughter showing the rock with the principle, nothing is enough. The Good Life, creating a life of meaning. And there's a quote, active in indolence, abroad who roam, in quest of happiness, which dwells at home. With vain pursuits fatigued, at length will find its real dwelling is a virtuous mind. That's a quote by Dr. Zimmerman. Capitalized well on one of my discoveries, which is that peace and happiness aren't truly found elsewhere. You can have them along the way, but the deeper peace and happiness come from something else. The Good Life meditation is my daily effort of recounting, considering, and developing my personal life objectives and principles. I perform this activity in the morning, usually on my way to work, as a start and readiness to the coming day, and as a reminder of the best life practices I have so far uncovered and made my own. With practice, the effort has become as familiar and refreshing as making and enjoying a hot cup of coffee, leaving me fortified and invigorated for whatever the day may hold. Note, I periodically record this activity on video to upload to a special YouTube playlist titled The Good Life. I recommend watching one of these videos for more in-depth coverage of each point, as well as personal examples of how I apply these objectives and principles to my own daily challenges. The playlist URL is included in the appendix. So I did change the way I do that. I no longer just record and then upload. I do it live. No, I do it. No, I don't do it. This is live. I do it every morning. I do record it and upload every morning, just as I described there. That's exactly how I do it. Okay, so I'll begin with the affirmation of human and civil rights. I must recognize, respect, and I don't do this part every day, but it's something that I meant to do. I left it in because I think it's a good idea. I must recognize, respect, and abide the rights of individuals and the smaller groups within society, such that these are not compromised in the pursuit of the common good. The lesser among us shall not be neglected or trodden upon in service of the many. I added that piece because I was concerned that the pursuit of virtue might cause imbalance and inequity of effort. And I wanted to make sure that I kept in mind those who are little represented or have little power. Okay, first my 7 objectives. Number 1, to be always ready to die. And this is going to sound a lot like my Good Life meditation video because that's exactly what it is. Although with the Good Life meditation video, I take each one of these objectives and principles and I expound upon them in an extemporaneous fashion. Now I'm going to do it having written it down because I had to instantiate those ideas into the book, so I wrote them down. So this is exactly how they are as written down. Wow, that one's close. I may do this job to a better, greater or lesser degree, better or lesser degree when I do it aloud. And here you get quotes too. So, be always ready to die. That we must all die, we always knew. I wish I had soon remembered it. That's Dr. Johnson. At all times, have every important life affair in order, my decided purpose, my household and finances, as well as my connections, obligations, responsibilities, and commitments. Have also my art in a state of readiness to carry on as my own real legacy and potential lasting memory after I am gone. My last photo taken, my last sketch complete, my final word penned and saved. No letters left to write, no goodbyes left to speak, no one left to hug, to be ready now and at a moment's notice to loosen my grip when life is done, all at once, and then fall into darkness without a single backward glance or backwards thought or longing backwards memory. That was number one. Number two, make good and effective use of time and resources. To make good use of these few moments right now and to dwell very little on past utilization, other than to use such memory to inform my judgment in the direction of improved forward progress. To also make good use of whatever resources are at my disposal, not just for increase, but to spend, share, give, or apply those resources well and in ways which are in accord with the life objectives and with my life objectives and principles. Below are examples of some of the things I would like to be caught doing when death comes at last to utterly snuff out my light. And then that follows a list, itemized list of all the things that would be good things to be doing when death comes. Let's read that list. Breathing slow and measured breaths. Controlling my emotions. Thinking and acting deliberately. Remembering and acting upon my responsibilities. Preparing a good meal. Eating well and very little. Helping others. Being attentive to my family. Whoa. And attentive to the ocean. Providing good value to my employer. Learning something startlingly new. Reading an excellent book. Memorizing poetry which moves me. Studying history. Imagining the future. Enjoying good music. Listening to a good lecture, discussion, or debate. Challenging what I believe. Changing my mind for good reason. Admitting that I was wrong. Apologizing when necessary. Becoming uncomfortable. Withstanding discomfort. Suffering well and longer than I thought I could. Standing, walking, swimming, or simply moving. Making a pet happy. Picking up litter. It's a long list. Recording, I'm almost done. Recording and sharing my own thoughts. Accurately recounting the idea of another. Sleeping deeply. Discovering I am wrong. Remembering death. Number 3, develop and maintain good and sound life principles. I should change that to say objectives and principles. Note to self. I will secure early in life good rules to live by. Objectives and principles which are accurate and true. I will then dedicate some time each day to using, testing, and refining these objectives and principles. Over time, I will make a small catalog of only the soundest truths I have found, which I will then number and recount each day for the purpose of further discovery and self-guidance. Finally, I will share what I have found through the example of my words and actions and my best effort of living a good and sound life. Number 4, cultivate good emotional reactions. I will take control of my emotions such that these inform my living more than control it. Feelings and reactions will then become life counselors rather than rulers and chiefs. Through this effort, I will create and reflect a life of equanimity through inward control and a resulting outward peace. I will remember that life is lived as one upon a seashore, noting and living according to the tides, which fall now with feelings of low regard towards our purpose. That's not clear. I will remember that life is lived as one upon a seashore, noting and living according to the tides, which fall now with feelings of low regard towards our purpose and meaning and well-being, followed later by rising spirits and outlook. Okay, I get it. With the fresh, clean flood flowing in, temporary here for a short season, before the ebb comes again to frustrate, confuse, and concern us in an always recurring cycle of lows and highs, and lows again once more. I guess I could have written that a little more clearly, but I think it comes across the way I meant it. Speaking of ebbing and flowing. Perform good actions. That's number 5. My deeds should be worthy of a life spent working to pass each day as an improvement, not only for myself and my family, but also for those with whom we share life now, as well as those in the future who will receive this common inheritance. Number 6, recognize true limits and true opportunity. I will strive to live in honest recognition of my true scope of control, which extends no further than my thoughts, actions, and reactions, and the consequences these might entail. I will ask myself how I may craft favorable ends from any circumstance. What misfortune do I have the power to fashion into some instrument of virtue? Is it death now at the door? Do not bar the way, for the hour of our meeting is truly at hand, and I will not attempt to detain in vain any will, force, or consequence which is truly beyond my control. And what role apathy in my discernment and feign engagement with a universe beyond the scope of my small control. Number 7, one thing slowly. This is the last objective. And if it seems like I'm getting a little bit different, it's because it's really, really cold. My body's starting to shake. I'll take a sip of tea as soon as I finish this one. One thing slowly. Do only one thing at a time and do that thing slowly. I will try hard to never take on 2 activities or entertain 2 thoughts at the same time. In addition, I will pursue each activity or thought slowly. If I find this limit difficult to maintain, then clearly I have accepted more responsibility than I can reasonably handle. Of course, there will be times I am unable to maintain this workload or ratio due to deadlines or other necessities. However, in hindsight, I will try to identify where I went wrong and how I managed to let my workload or responsibilities get so out of control that I had to multitask. I will do this in order to try and avoid making the same mistake in the future. I will then learn from my error and become more mature for the effort. The benefit of this objective may be self-evident in my improved ability to focus my attention on whatever is most important in the current moment. Moving and thinking slowly further improves these efforts by ensuring I make good and well-considered choices and actions which are less prone to mistake or costly redo. Over time, I will become able to do more with less and make better ends of whatever means I find and enjoy a more relaxed and considered living at both work and play. Okay, those are my 7 objectives, and it still says 31 principles here. Although I think it should have 33 or 34 here. Is this book that old? It's got 33 and it still says 31, and I'm up to 34. This is an old book. I gotta fix that. The editing never ends. Goodness. Oh my gosh, I'm cold. The whole body is shaking. And that's the last of my tea. Let's down this tea. Okay. Maybe when this tea is done, maybe that's when I'll finish for today. Maybe make it a short one. That's warm. I need this. Yes. Okay. Number 1, the first principle is the principle of war. I seek to rise each morning taking arms first against my own philosophy and beliefs, and secondarily against the philosophy and beliefs of others. I will suffer no unsound or unjust objective or principle to survive my honest, reasoned critique, no matter the consequence to my sense of peace, comfort, or abiding worldview. I will equally yield to the warfare of another against my precious truths when these are shown to be unsound or dishonest in any way. Yeah, that's exactly what I wanted to say. Some of those objectives were a little bit wordy. Number 2, the principle of reason and the sub-principles of honesty, objectivity, doubt, and humiliation. And a quote by Aristotle. The life of reason is best and pleasantest, since reason more than anything else is man. So too this life is also the happiest. Here we go. Reason is my first instrument of reconciling hypothesis with truth. To be effective, I must be honest with myself and others regarding what I know and do not know, and make pains to view the world objectively, without coloring reality too much with imagination, fortified of want or need or fear, or the normalizing pressure of authority, tradition, and unfounded consensus. Doubt is my default stance and starting point for every new venture of inquiry, and humiliation at my own realized folly the surest sense that I am on the right track of correcting my own wrongs. Reason at its best is a tool of self-immolation, turned first inward as I seek to burn away the chaff and waste of unprincipled living, and then outward in resistance to our species' less worthy answers to the mysteries of life. Again, that's exactly what I wanted to say. 2 out of 2. The homunculus. There is an inward architecture which we create through the fact and consequence of our decisions and actions, which become the scaffolding structure of the inner man or woman who others may dimly see when they look us square in the eyes, perceiving a light or darkness within which shines or empties in proportion to the effort we have made to not just live, but to live well and in accord with our perceived nature and better inclination. We fail utterly when we build our inner world solely guided by the prescribed blueprint precedent of others, which guidance may suffice to create grand and stately outward living, but may leave us inwardly hollow and empty in the end, when we are alone with our own outer world, and we look at what we have and do possess and have made, and we wonder what we may have seemingly missed, and if somehow there may be more. Why are we so outwardly filled, yet so inwardly empty? Our home, then, a stable and impressive castle of outward success, and seemingly worthwhile achievement and acclaim, resting upon an inner foundation of shifting sand. Again, exactly what I wanted to say is I sit upon a foundation of shifting sand and waves biting away at the base there as I think the tide is coming in. Ooh, that one's coming right up to it. I love this life at the beach. Anchorhold, number 4, the place where we suffer and die. There is an inward architecture which we create through the fact and consequence of our decisions and actions, which becomes the scaffolding structure of the inner man or woman who others may dimly see when they look us square in the eyes, perceiving a light or darkness within which shines or empties in proportion to the effort we have made to not just live, but to live well and in accord with our perceived nature and better inclination. We fail utterly when we build our inner world solely guided by the prescribed blueprint precedent of others, which guidance may suffice to create grand and stately outward living, but may leave us inwardly hollow and empty in the end, when we are alone within our outer world, and we look at what we have and do possess and have made, and we wonder what we may have seemingly missed, and if somehow there may be more. Why are we so outwardly filled, yet so inwardly empty? Our home, then, a stable and impressive castle of outward success, and seemingly worthwhile achievement and acclaim, resting upon an inner foundation of shifting sand. What? How did that happen? They're exactly the same. The homunculus and the Anchorhold have somehow become the same. How did that happen? I must have done a cut and paste error. Wow. And that must have been pretty recently. That's a problem. Life will not go well, right? Speed bumps. I'll correct that today. I was reading along thinking, this sounds very familiar. Oh well. Okay, and I spot hold on. A correction there, so they're a little bit different. So I did manage to make a correction there because I see a typo there that I fixed on the homunculus, but I didn't fix on the Anchorhold. How interesting. Now I know that they're very different because the homunculus, I wrote the homunculus a long time ago, years ago, And the Anchorhold I only probably wrote within the last year. So something got cut and pasted. I do have an old copy of Going Alone that's sitting there. I wonder, but I think it's from before I even wrote the Anchorhold. I don't know where I can find the old copies of it to see if I can find it to add in. We'll see. Anyway, I'll fix it today. Apologies to anybody if you've gotten a copy of the book that's got the double. That's the closest one yet, and it's coming up right up here. It's sneaking right around me. It's gone past the camera because I'm on a hung up of sand. Okay, here we go. The Home of Good and Evil. This is principle number 5. A catalog of right and wrong maintained by that little mortal within my head, containing both opinion and judgment, and suggestive of a platform of subjective responsibility. The Homunculus owns this list and has the responsibility to develop and vet its contents, as well as reconcile these with the reasoned opinions of others. Good and evil then become perspective and opinions, dangerously subjective, yet also subject to the truth-finding powers of reason, honesty, and objectivity. Argument and discussion are the tools of reconciliation when such opinions differ. And consensus reached in this way has more authority and force than the proclamations and commandments of 1,000 fictitious gods. And number 6, the principle of purpose, which has 3 sub-principles: biology, virtue, and mission. And here's a quote from Aristotle. Activity in accordance with virtue is virtue. My first purpose is to live and reproduce, before then dying and getting the hell out of the way. Beyond that, it is up to each of us to decide what our purpose will be. For myself, I select the pursuit of virtue, where virtue is defined as a life lived in furtherance of the well-being of thinking things. And my missions are the series of goals I set for myself to achieve over the successive years of my life. Yeah, that says it. This covers the 3 in a very short paragraph. I think I could probably tinker with that and make that better, but it gets it across. Next is the atomic principle, with the sub-principles of dissolution and emergence, which I rarely ever talk about when I recite the Good Life Creed, but there they are. And here's a quote from Heraclitus. All things change to fire, and fire exhausted falls back into things. Everything in the universe is bits and pieces, flowing and changing, forever transforming and becoming. So too you and me, here for a bit, soon to pass, soon to dissolve, never again this thing once more. When remembering this principle, I often pick up a handful of sand and dirt, and let it sift through my fingers in the blowing sand. Convenient that I've got some sand here to do that with. Usually I do that out in the desert. Next is the principle of nature. And if for some reason I decided there's the Path of Wildness I think there's 3 or 4 there's a poem that goes with it. It goes, the Path of Wildness is easy to find. The course of a stream, leaves blown in the wind, a beast's track through the brush, and the direction of our first inclination. And I went ahead and put that in here, the little bits, and I scattered it kind of like seeds around, and I put here, a beast's track through the brush. Now, it's in quotation marks because I'm quoting myself, but I wonder if anybody will put it together later in the book that those 3 pieces come from it, that they come from that poem, which is scattered itself elsewhere in the book. Everything and everyone has some qualities and character which define what they are and what they are about. This nature, combined with perspective and will, is their paradigm and operational guide. The demands of biology are a mandate deep and sound from the perspective of survival and the continuance of our kind. I ask myself at every chance, what is the nature of the things I will meet and interact with today? What are the natures of the people I know and with whom I share life? And what is my own nature? What am I made of, and where am I going? Knowing these things will help me to engage better and more reasonably with everyone and everything. Oh, I'm feeling better. I think the sun's finally starting to bake in a little bit. I've stopped shaking. And the warm tea is doing its thing. Oh, that guy's going to get a wave. Nice. Okay, I think I can stay and read a little longer even though I ran out of tea. Let's continue. Excuse me just a second. Got the sniffles. Pardon me. The pirate ride, the course of a stream. There is no good reason to imagine we are anything but atoms and molecules and compounds and organs and muscles and limbs and brain and mind, instantiated through energy borrowed of the sun and the internal heat of the earth, in alignment with the inertia of the universe. That is it. In a sense, a very crude sense, we are complex chemical reactions, natural processes unwinding through brief years, months, and days towards some conclusion which a sufficiently powerful computer algorithm might one day plot and predict. We are decision engines driven by the universe at large. In a sense, our destiny was always set, with our deliberations and decisions being just some distinct moments of seeming agency along our chemical unwinding from conception to death, a pathway we could hardly avoid or choose otherwise, a route decided not by us, but instead by the complex orchestrations of a universe which delivered us into life and mindlessly conspires during every moment we live to nudge and jostle us into every decision and action we vainly think our own. Life a purposeless river-like meander. We live, we experience, we think, we decide, and we move, but never truly of our own volition, and always on the path of our law-bound chemical unwinding. Life, therefore, is like a theme park pirate ride, unintentional horror, joy, and amusement in which the robot pirates and the living riders are one. We live our lives, then, along seemingly invisible tracks we can never jump or escape, for we lack utterly the will to do anything but stay our course. And though we can make any decisions we like, we can never have truly made any decisions other than the ones we did. That's exactly what I wanted to write. Sometimes it's a long time between when I wrote this to read it, and I go, yep, that's exactly what I was trying to say. So that's like, what is that? That's some of the objectives I could write better. Maybe when I get back to Japan when I retire, I'll spend a little time to try to rewrite these better. Maybe I'll meet a new and better muse out there on the Izu Peninsula or up the Abe River. Next, number 10, the principle of maturity. Sub-principles are wisdom, fortitude, and integrity. Maturity is a finely curated collection of experience gained of life trials, both succeeding and failing, and recalled with some accuracy and honest consideration towards improved future ends. Wisdom is the soil where such considerations are plowed, while fortitude is the will and persistence to see the harvest through, and integrity maintains our sound constitution. Brief, but gets the point. The social principle, number 11, and the sub-principles here are diplomacy, justice, and conspiracy. And here's a quote, a Roman proverb: do justice and let the skies fall. Wow, I only added that like last month, so that made it in. So this is a very recent copy, but it's got a couple of errors in it. A couple of huge ones. The editing never ends. Here we go. Human beings generally operate in pursuit of our own well-being and the well-being of one another. We can survive alone, though we rarely flourish in solitude, and we risk that whatever understanding and wisdom we gain in deep and persistent disconnect may not be easily communicated or translated to others, and may become irrelevant babble despite perhaps being true. Therefore, find one another and make good effort to be together and share ideas. Go alone at times, but always return to be with others. I will become a diplomat and ambassador to not only the familiar, but also the strange and new. I will strive always with others towards sane and just ends. Become a man or woman of one another. We will conspire together towards what we perceive and decide is good. These are lofty goals, something I struggle daily to attain. Number 12, the principle of family. Sub-principle, catalyst. I keep forgetting in my daily good life meditations to talk about that sub-principle part, the catalyst part. There are some slamming waves breaking right over there. Not a single person on that one point. Wow. Catalyst is an important part of family. Family it catalyzes us to do well and live better. I'll get to that in just a second when I finish it, but here we go. Our people make up the content. Well, maybe I'll cover it because I wrote this. This is the first time I'll ever read this. I wrote this literally last month, so maybe I covered the catalyst part. Let's see. I'm surrounded by water. Our people make up the context of our lives in terms of purpose, obligation, mission, feedback, support, and ultimately the best and most almost intangible part of being alive. We begin with the people to whom we are born, the chance family which we gain by accident of birth. We grow then with the family we later decide. We grow then with the family we later decide, our friends and our partners and our spouse and the children we in turn together make. From these we gain our decided mission and our direction and our guidance forward, for better or worse, for richer or poorer, in sickness and in health, till death or very good cause do us part. Without this connection and circumstance, we can still live a rich and meaningful life, though the way may be harder at times as we strive with less mandate to compel us through thick and thin, less necessity to push us out the door to our jobs on days when we'd rather not, and through many years and decades of hard work, sacrifice, and giving. The very selfless endeavors which yield virtue from the dawning chaos of our lives rising and falling, and one day utterly failing. And if, once dead, we left behind the fact and echo of our virtuous living within the family we formed and supported and maintained, then our life will hardly have been lived in vain. And even if everything is lived in vain, even if everything is eventually one day in vain. Well, now that's written to the point. Now, did I cover the catalyst part? Yeah, no, I did. It'd be harder at times if we strive without the family to compel us to the thick and the thin, less necessity to push us out the door to our jobs. There you go. There's the catalyst part. So good. I did an all right job with that one. So yeah, I'll leave that one alone for now. 13, public speaking. Sub-principles are best words, prudence, felicity, eloquence, rumor, and gossip. Yay, I get to see felicities in there. I finally got it in there. Here's a quote from the Bible, Psalm 50:23. To him that ordereth his conversation aright, will I show the salvation of God. Here we go. Speak and communicate always as though any person being spoken of is standing directly before us and attentive to our every word. In this way, we shall not gossip or pass idle time at the expense of another. Use few words and just the right words to cautiously convey our meaning in alignment with our thoughts, avoiding verbal flourish unnecessary to our intent, or the adornment of our ideas with beautiful speech irrelevant to our Spartan meaning. Never spread stories or trade in the misfortune or folly of others. Okay, I like that one. That's good, if I do say so myself. And I did. Temperance, number 14. The sub-principles of suffering and simplicity. And gosh darn it, I took out apathy. I moved apathy somewhere else. But that's okay. I sometimes don't think apathy belongs there. Here's a quote from Anthony the Great. Keep your tongue in your belly under control. Here we go. Temperance is the controlled consumption of all things, such as food and drink, work and play, and even our thoughts and emotions. I will strive to recognize these consumables and then measure out a reasonable portion for myself and then strive to consume very little of that. And a boy can dream, right? Such worthy living naturally entails some suffering when we deny ourselves our wants, though a simple life makes this easier when the denial becomes part and parcel of our habits and conditioned response. I will then apply apathy towards the intemperance of others, as well as any personal misadventure which is beyond my control. I will recognize my own excess and that of my peers, and then use indifference as a buffer to prevent my consumption of the Feast of Offal. Kind of wordy, and it gets the point across. I can live with that. I can die with that, right? So it's really, what do I want to die and leave the book with, right? So I'll be looking for chapters as I go to the next level of editing. This is the first time I've thought about that, taking it to the next level of editing, to take the pieces of the book that are not quite tuned. Like the first couple of those were spot on. Some of these could do with a little more tuning, but you just can't tune wholesale, right? You got to have, the muse has to be there to help out. Number 15, life will not go well. I'll be damned if I don't nearly always stumble, trip, slip, or otherwise get bounced around, turn backwards, and have the hardest time keeping a straight line towards the objects and ends I set myself to reach or achieve. It's like life is this imperfectly evaluated landscape of changing textures, seasons, and weather, where winds suddenly gust from one side and slippery ice appears on the ground in a shady hollow, or a lurking beast stalk and jump from behind, and a friend hails us to the right and left and demands our time and attention, and our bodies complain and yield to fatigue, disease, and our ever-increasing weakness of capacity and uncertainty regarding want. That's a hell of a sentence, but it does the point. That's exactly what I wanted to say. That we ever get anywhere we've set out for is an amazing feat, demonstrative of strong object principles, seemingly indefatigable will, and a wisdom arrived at by way of experience, reflection, and resolve. Life will not go well, but we certainly can if we try. I'm pleased with that one. Okay, I'll leave with that. Number 16, the horror show. The recognized consequence of a universe unfolding beyond reach of our care or ministrations, and the awful evidence that there is no overarching management or oversight beyond the descriptive record we make of how things operate, and the necessity which physics, chemistry, and time does seemingly demand of us all. At last we stand with our hands at our sides and our mouths agape and our minds at wit's end, as the unfolding tale of what is moves on without notice or care of what we want or think is good or right or simply humane. It just moves forward, leaving everyone behind. We will all be left behind. Bam! Perfect. That's exactly what I wanted to say. I'm so pleased that some of the effort with some of these came through, because some of these are newer ones. Like I added The Life Will Not Go Well and The Horror Show within the last 6 months. The Horror Show within the last 2 months. That which must be born is number 17. Some principles, just one, hand on the tiller, which I rarely mention, but I should try to bring it in. Life presents us with various burdens of many sorts. Tasks, duties, responsibilities, as well as circumstances, both apprehended and unexpected, which we must shoulder, lift, and carry, despite our will, want, attitude, health, or even our desire. These are the things which we simply must do to fulfill our living mandate. Sure, some choose not to carry such burdens, though they do not do so without consequence. Yeah. Therefore, as long as this is what we must be and do, and how we must live, then why not press forward with a smile and eyes lifted towards the sun and the stars and the light, which is the better part of our lives? Let us press on despite the weight, move forward in spite of our fatigue, and live on while mindful and feeling and suffering, even of our weak bodies, frail minds, and inevitable consequent death. Wait a minute, I didn't read that right. Let's do that last sentence again. Let us press on despite the weight, move forward in spite of our fatigue, and live on while mindful and feeling and suffering, even of our weak bodies, frail minds, and inevitable consequent death. That's okay. I could tune that sentence a little bit. I should come out here with a little tuning pen, right? To mark the places that I need to tune. Note to self. I'm not done with this section. Here we go. Steady the course, declares the master from deck. Hold the rudder tight against the wind and the current, and your fear and your doubt and upset and sense of drift and loss and ambush, even by the forces of nature, of seeming nature, and the draw of the seeming fates towards the maelstrom at port and the siren rocks starboard. Quick, declares the crew, last Typo. It should be lash. It says last. Lash the master to the mast and unstop his ears before we ourselves shut up our own hearing with wax, and through all our weight, it should be throw. Oh my gosh, I got all these typos. Throw all our weight to hold the ship straight on course. Thus we learn the secrets of the song of the demon sea hags, while we're keeping our vision and direction intact against their sway. Will we soon enough go down and drown within the sea, or will we? Or of course we will, but not before we sail like men. Now, this section here, I totally just leveraged, the tale of Homer's, the Odyssey, right? And the story of Odysseus with his men on their ship passing the Siren Rocks, right? Where Odysseus has his men lash him to the mast and and keep his ears clear. Well, they put wax in their ears so they can't hear the siren song. That's all what that is. And I'm using that to illustrate that we have to bear it, like Odysseus bearing the siren song, fortitude through, pushing through, and there's a lot of energy and action in this one as I'm trying to express the will that it takes to push on through the challenges and the tough parts of life. All right, number 18. Whoa, that was right up there. The Feast of Offal, the banquet of our suffering. And here's a quote from Proverbs 29:11. A fool uttereth all his mind, but a wise man keepeth it till afterwards. Did I use that same quote somewhere else? I don't think so. Hold on, let's take a quick. No, I didn't. I used another Bible quote there close by. Oh, there it is. That's that's Proverbs. That's Psalms. Okay. So the Feast of Offal. This strange meal consists of the waste and byproduct of unreasoned and unprincipled living, which we discard like filth everywhere we live, think, and act. Every time we become confused, frustrated, upset, or angry, and we take pains to let all the world know, we are then spilling out our personal offal onto the world, spreading the filth of our hot, raw emotions onto everyone within range of our upset. The curious thing is that so many take up this filth we flung at them, to then consume it with seeming relish, making themselves immediately sick in the process and causing them to begin their own reciprocal feast of offal. And thus it spreads from one to another throughout the day and even at night, while we dream our emotions into life, an awful banquet of filth, soiling deeply our peace and better living, poisoning our lives and the lives of everyone we know as a big dog. I wish to cover my mouth and nose instead, to filter out the foul excess of undisciplined thought and living, to temper my emotions and my careless consumption of the emotions of others. Yet that does the job. It's a little pedestrian and weak, but it does the job. Number 19, the principle of distraction, and a long quote by Matthew Arnold. Here we go. Here's the quote. What is the course of the life of mortal men on the earth? Most men eddy about here and there, eat and drink, chatter and love and hate, gather and squander and are raised, aloft are hurled in the dust, striving blindly, achieving nothing, and then they die. Perish and no one asks who or what they have been, more than he asks what waves in the moonlight solitude mind of the midmost ocean have swelled, foamed for a moment and gone. That's a really great quote. There's people and dogs just passing. I kind of got lost in it, but that is the damn straight quote, man. That is the one. That's probably the best quote in the book that's a match for the principle that I'm trying to describe here. I remember when I first read that, and I was like, wow. At every turn in life, we desire not to see. We turn our heads to look, not always, but towards something which might cause us not to see. The thing we do not want is to observe the emptiness which resides behind and before, and between and within it all. We do not wish to sense the negative silence of the universe's apparent vacuum purpose. We do not want to know that death is forever beyond a nighttime soon to come which we can neither know nor avoid. And so we busy ourselves with school and work and family and friends and hobbies and interest and gossip and joy and sorrow and peace and gratitude and anxiety and angst and ecstasy and the very fact of the observance that we are alive. And I deliberately didn't put any commas in there. I wanted it to be read like that. Anything at all will do. Anything to avoid the awful aspect and great indifference of a soulless universe without God. Yet more and more, I am less inclined to fill the empty with my own fearful, distracted voice. I'm increasingly preferring substance to filler, though substance is harder to find and still harder to hold, leaving me often with nothing at all. But I'm all right with that now. I'm at last better without the distraction of life and death I know is not. Bam! Spot on, man! I hit that one out the ballpark. That's exactly what I wanted to say when I wrote that. It's great to have written that years ago and then to read it now and realize that's exactly what I was trying to say. If I do say so myself. But who would know better? It's my damn book. Okay, number 20, Agency in the Great Indifference. This sand might fall in. I might fall in if I suddenly disappear backwards. Agency in the Great Indifference. Every individual life is an agent, and the product of its living are its artifacts. Subtract these away, and what's left is the vast landscape of the Great Indifference, characterized by an incapacity to observe or maintain any thought or opinion towards well-being, an utter lack of regard towards joy or suffering, a godless backdrop of unthinking, inanimate substance and time. Bam! Another one. Number 21, the best seat in the house. And here's a quote from St. Paul. I have learnt in whatever state I am, content therewith to be content. I blew that. I have learnt in whatever state I am, therewith to be content. This place and time where I am now will suffice. I will have peace where and who I am at this time, and doing whatever engages my necessity and motive and the pursuit of virtue. Meanwhile, I will also strive towards better ends for myself and others, not as a replacement of my current circumstance and work, but rather as a natural improvement upon these. 22, the Restless Man, and a sub-principle of diminished potency. I keep forgetting that I added that particular sub-principle there, the diminished potency. Interesting. Yeah, and I mean that type too. Here we go. Here's a long quote by Ralph Waldo Emerson, which I just actually read yesterday, I think. I was reading it again. Traveling is a fool's paradise. We owe to our first journeys the discovery that place is nothing. At home I dream that at Naples, at Rome, I can be intoxicated with beauty and lose my sadness. I pack my trunk, embrace my friends, embark on the sea, and at last wake up in Naples, and there beside me is the stern fact, the sad self, unrelenting, identical, that I fled from. I seek the Vatican and the palaces. I affect to be intoxicated with sights and suggestions, but I am not intoxicated. My giant goes with me wherever I go. Wow, Ralph Waldo Emerson, he really hit it out of the ballpark with that one. Here I go with my part. Wow, it's so cool the way the beach is like this. It's sloping down, this deep slope. I mean, it's really cool. There must be someplace better than here, somewhere I can go to find dissatisfaction. If only I had not made those earlier bad choices, hadn't gone left when I should better have gone right, or straight, or heck, even back. Any direction other than the direction I went, which led me now to this settled, safe, dull place. Oh, how I want something else. Maybe I can convince those I'm bound to here, the people who expect my life with them here, that there is someplace better than here for us all, for all of us. Maybe I can drag them along with me. The spouse, the kid, the dog, and the cat. We'll throw all this crap we've gained here to settle. We'll throw away all this crap we've gained here to settle our restless ticking. These things which quell nothing for more than a day, gaining only further loss in the effort of acquisition. Oh, damn it all to hell. Why am I here? Why did I agree to this arrangement? Why can't I get away? That's been the story of my life from pretty much all the decades. So I know this story through experience. This is what we think, and this is what we do when nature prompts us to new horizons. Nature has wired the young to press boundaries and to go beyond limits, and to cross over mountains to find new places where more and better might be found. This instinct and drive are one of the ways we survive. It's how humans spread across the globe. It's why we escaped extinction in one place while others of us lived on elsewhere. Not everyone is built this way. Men more than women, I suspect, but both sexes to be sure. And there will be no peace to those who are so driven. The only peace being the arrival of old age. Yeah. Expect some relief in the mid-50s or thereabouts. Yep. About the time, and in relative proportion to your waning bodily potencies. There's the potency part. Until then, suffer if you ignore the call to the path. And even then, suffer on. So I get, sometimes still young people are writing to me and they're like, how can I find peace? And I'm like, I don't want to tell them, maybe you just have to wait till you're 50, 55. Sorry, it seems to be the way we're built. We're built, the young are driving, forcing, going on and on and on to something else. Well, the oldos around us are like, okay, I'll just sit here on the beach. You guys go do your thing. The Path of Wildness, number 23. The sub-principles here are shadow dividend and Ulysses' ride, which I rarely ever mention. And here is another quote from the Path of Wildness poem, The Direction of Our First Inclination. At every life crossroads, I will assess the fact that a decision must be made, and then determine how much time I have to make it, and then collect my facts and consider the options, and then decide at the appointed time. If my facts are insufficient and there really is no more time, then I will listen to my gut instinct, let it have its say, and then perhaps move in that direction, confident in having made the best evaluation I could, in a reasonable amount of time and with the resources and facts at my disposal. I will be all right with whatever outcome, even if the next end is death, and I will beware the hard benefits which come of such change, the improvements which hurt, but which can be had in no other way, the shadow dividends of the pain of change, and the loss of what is no longer needed, and I will suffer well through the decided pathways, like Ulysses riding the storm and temptation which he chose for his own. There we go, circling back to the Ulysses example, and that's why I have Ulysses ride as a sub-principle. 24, the great life adventure. And here's another one of those bits. Leaves blown in the wind. And a quote from Dr. Johnson. He who continues the same course of life in the same place will have little to tell. Good job, Dr. Johnson. Embark when you are young upon that beckoning dream and adventure. Let it be the centerpiece and point of reference for the man or woman who you will become. Let the experience inform and guide your active philosophy as well as the development of your own living principles and standards. Yeah, that's good. Man, it's amazing that I covered such a big, important principle with just one short sentence. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines. Hardly 6 lines. Number 25, the risk of avoiding risk and the sub-principle of risk management. Life presents us with a variety of risks we must attend to. Our parents and society commonly warn us to get an education. Whoa. That really came close. Right there. To get an education, find a good job, and then settle down to a safe and sane life with a worthy another. These are good, responsible things to do, but I will offer there are deeper risks which also need our attention. The risk of living a long and healthy life without allowing ourselves the chance to develop and engage our deeper self, or experience life without much challenging adventure, or keeping too much distance from the risks which guard the deep rewards of discovery, maturity, survival, and growth. So, attend to both types of risk. The practical aims of school, work, family, and money, as well as perhaps the less practical, though often quite worthwhile risks of becoming and living the life of our dreams. And avoid the trap of managing the risk of managing risk to the extent of walling ourselves into our own safe, secure, and familiar coffin. There's plenty of time for death later. Okay, I'm pleased with that one. That's good. And no typos. Sin and damnation, and the sub-principles of falsity, credulity, faith, superstition, dogma, authority, rumor, and gossip. It is a sin to invest our expectations with hope, which may be corrupted or foiled by fortune. It is also a sin to believe things without good reason, to acquiesce for the sake of comfort or security or peace, or to simply avoid the discomfort of not knowing. The penalty for this sin is damnation in the here and now, which is the only time we will ever really have. Damned for our unreasoned want, damned for our unreasoned belief. 27. Complete oblivion. Sub-principles are no final reunion, no final reconciliation, and no final justice. And here's another quote from the Bible, Job 14:12. So man lieth down and riseth not, till the heavens be no more. They shall not awake, nor be raised out of their sleep. Soon the light within the mind will wink out. My life will come to an end. The storehouse of my memory will lose its electricity, which is the means of its maintenance and growth. The columns of my mental library and lyceum will quickly crumble and fall. The roof cave in, the foundations turn to sand. The philosopher is gone, evaporated to atoms. There will be no last reunion with loved ones, no reconciliation of hard, careless, or misspoken words, no satisfaction of wanting justice. The whole thing blows away with the new morning's breeze. That does it. 28. The season of philosophy. Philosophy wields her own authority. She appoints her own time and does not allow it to be appointed for her. Seneca the Younger. Think and record your thoughts while you can. See how the sun is fading now, dropping near the horizon? You will not survive the coming night. If you fail to record your words today, right now, they will never come again. Or maybe if the words arrive again in some new form some distant day hence, will you have the body, will, or constitution to record what you hear? Will your mind still function well enough to put the words together in the correct order? Will you have enough energy then for the effort? Will your hands perhaps tremble too much, or your medicine dull your nerves, or your broken self simply refuse to cooperate? That's a one. Will you remain tuned to the muse? These are very real risks. So instead, keep a pad and pencil handy now, or a recorder or a camera, and pull yourself aside when the muse speaks. Attend to her words and prepare your thoughts and philosophy as best you can while you can. Bullseye aim. 29. Our best ambition is to achieve our goals and Our best ambition is to achieve our goals and objectives to the extent we can feel our effort is complete. That is often a pretty high mark, even with a pessimist's aim. The fact is we often fall short, well short, or at least short enough to cause us to bluster or regret we even tried. This one's a little rough to read. For myself, I will be satisfied I made a good and honest effort. There is really no time to lose. It's serviceable. I could work on that one, though. This chapter is going to need some work, clearly. 30. The uphill climb. Sub-principle, the open ocean swim. I will rise each morning and turn my attention to the uphill grade, to the slope which leads up, to the path which resists my climb, yet yields ever-widening horizons with each step forward. I will move forward and up. I will rarely stop, and I will never willingly go back or even cast a longing backward glance at the places I've been and have left behind. Another way to look at this is from the perspective of my life by the sea, where sometimes I slip alone into the water to swim far out to the deep water and then along the shore. The water is deep out there, and the waves incessant, pushing me now up and back and over and across as I make my best line along the distant shore. No matter how the sea might rock or jostle my body, I carry on. I keep swimming. And when a larger wave foils my attempt to take in a breath of air, filling my mouth with salty seawater, I only sputter and spit and yet carry on. I swim through the sea with a steady resolve, apathetic to the sea, while nonetheless engaged upon and within it. This is the uphill and steady climb forward. This is the open ocean swim. That's really, I'm glad I did that, because I actually struggled. I almost struggled to give this principle two names. I had two names I was struggling with, which was the uphill climb and the open ocean swim. And I'm glad I got both of them in there in a way. Arena and utility, 31. Every place and situation are an opportunity to practice and refine your objectives and principles. Ask yourself at every point through the day what utility and good end might be found for the employment of your reason and philosophy, which must be forever alert, skeptical, and active. Yeah. 32. Nothing is enough. Not relying on things for our well-being. A quote here from Dr. Johnson. Frugality is not only the basis of quiet, but of beneficence. We start out life in pursuit of whatever might satisfy our aching desire to become sated at the banquet of life. Education, career, friendship, family, and belief are each in turn stuffed into the yawning crevasse, opening onto an indifferent universe hard at work, exchanging order for night. Geez, did I write that? A cosmos incapable of sympathy to our plight. This is why it feels like I've got a muse. Like, I couldn't have written that. Someone else wrote that. I don't mean to sound self-flattering. It's just amazing sometimes how really the muse, when you got the right circumstance, words can come out that even you think you can't possibly write. We try and we try, doing everything we think we should, to no avail and no relief. Nothing ever enough. Nothing ever quite enough. Until one day, we realize we are saved when we discover that nothing is enough. Okay, the last principle, the principle of fun. The sub-principles are hope and retrospect. And another Bible quote from Ecclesiastes 8:15. Then I commended mirth, because a man hath no better thing under the sun. Along the way, we might become overly focused on the pursuit of living well, such that we neglect to enjoy the fact that we are alive. Be gay, be jolly, have fun, find friendship and community and family and things to do which might make us smile and laugh and sleep well and hard with a smile on your face. Live such a life that the mortician must ask their heirs if they wish you to wipe the death mask grin from your face before the funeral service begins. Bring to your death a good and happy life as a warm, fading spark of light, and life glowing down into the seemingly infinite sea of darkness and gloom. I like that one. That's good. Okay, I finished my objectives and principles. Now I just have to read this last bit in today's thought and action plan. That's how I usually end my Good Life Creed recitation, as I think about the coming day. And here we go. The last part of my daily Good Life meditation is some reflection on the coming day and how I might make best use of the time and what issues I may face. I also give some thought to the people I will interact with and their natures and the natures of the places and circumstances I will visit and engage. I typically then conclude this activity by admonishing myself to think and act this day in a deliberate and purposeful manner, watching over my thoughts and husbanding my actions while being regardful of the impact and consequence of my every decision and substantive move. This entire process of the Good Life meditation requires about 10 minutes if I do it in my head and between 25 and 40 minutes if I do it out loud. And that's about right. I typically go longest and do my best job when I have the camera running and I know I will upload the video. Sharing such videos is never easy, as it is rather embarrassing to talk openly with the world about my issues, of my ideas, issues, and challenges. Though the email feedback I get always makes the process quite worthwhile. What I should probably add to that, which doesn't come across, and there's more to it. There's more to this chapter. There's a list. What I should have probably add to that last bit is that I get email from people quite regularly who tell me they decided to not commit suicide because of what I share in the Good Life Creed, that it gives them the fortitude to move on, that pain can be in some cases managed, and that they're not alone in this endeavor. So that doesn't quite come across in that, although I think that's an impactful point. It's a fact that I should probably try to express in greater. I need to work on this chapter, greater emphasis. And then from there, there's a list of hashtags. These are all the hashtags that I typically add at the end of my daily uploads of my various social media. And they reference, there are ways to reference back to within the book which principles and objectives I'm describing. Okay, now I've got a few bits of things here. That'll take me a long time to get through. There's a whole bunch of, after that, a whole bunch of quotes from the Muse that I could read, but I think I've read enough for today. I'll stop there for today. And then I need to go back home and fix all the errors that I've discovered in my damn book. Who knew that 5 years into it, 2 years of writing, 3 years of editing, I'd have that many problems still. Let's see if there's any comments that I missed. Oh, okay. Andy. Hi, Andy. Good morning, Kurt. Still dark up here, up in Canada. My neighbor Totoro says, can't stay for the whole reading, but it was both entertaining and enlightening. Thanks, Kurt. I'm off to work. Very good. Have a great day. Andy says, see you later, Kurt. The sun has just popped up. Off with the camera. Have a great day with Yumiko. You too, Andy. By the way, you have a great day with Chie. By the way, that copy-paste error is not in my copy. Oh, really? Really? So I might have to ask you to take a photo of that. Because, Andy, I might not have anywhere the original. So that means it's relatively recent. I made that mistake recent. That's great to know, Andy, because then at least I know somebody's got original, because I may not have original of what I wrote for that. Thank you for letting me know. I might reach out to you and ask you to. I'll check at home, see if I've got it. Maybe it's in, because I've got a standard edition of this, and then I've also got the e-version, and maybe I didn't make the mistake in the e-version, in which I can correct it back. And by the way, anyone, if you've received a copy of my book and it has that copy-paste error in it, just let me know. Send me an email, dinnerbytheriver@gmail.com, and I will gladly send you free of charge the latest copy of the book to replace that. And I'm with my apologies. Thank you very much. And if your book is able, and then I'll also illustrate it for you. Okay, thanks everybody. Have a great day. Make sure it's a great one. My wife should be up. I should be able to get home. We're going to go out to have breakfast this morning. We're going to go to the local Nod, which is just a walk down the street from where we live, and then we'll talk about our day. Have a fashion show to do, and lots of more planning. We have less than 2 weeks before we go to Japan. So you all have a great day, and I'll give you one last look at the beach here before I sign off. And you can see here's the slope that's been coming up. The waves are being nice right now. Oh, my nephew Parker just texted me as well. Good morning, Parker. I'll message him. Bye-bye, everybody. Have a great day. Be safe, but not too safe. Bye-bye.